I am thirsty. Very thirsty. It's because I'm 60% water. The quarter-pound hamburger I had for lunch yesterday took the cow 600 gallons of water to make that 1/4 pound. I had a glass of milk this morning. The cow drank 45 gallons of water to make 12 gallons of milk. Ben Franklin said, "When the well runs dry, we know the worth of water." I am very thirsty. I am very thirsty because Wisconsin drinks and uses nearly 5.5 billion gallons of water every day. I am thirsty because Madison pumps 10.4 billion gallons of water out of the ground every year. And that water is not being replaced by nature. Some nights I actually lose sleep over this, thinking about the what ifs, the wherefores, and the whatevers. There is this thing called a cone of depression. Now, it sounds like some kind of wild psychological condition, but it's actually a hydrological situation. The cone of depression forms in the bedrock aquifer, that layer of earth holding our drinking water supplies beneath our feet, when there's not enough water to recharge it. It forms because the ground cannot get enough water from the rain. There is just not enough rain. Well, under Madison, the cone of depression is 50 feet below normal. That tells us that the water levels are in peril, that the deep sandstone rocks that hold our drinking water are not getting recharged. I am very thirsty because 21% of the Earth's surface drinking water is here in the Great Lakes, and this is in peril. This is a lot of water. It used to be unlimited. It used to be free. It used to be really clean and refreshing. These days, not so much. I'm very thirsty because Chicago uses 1 billion gallons of water every day. Their cone of depression is 900 feet below normal. I'm wondering about how the earth and society are changing. I'm wondering about social justice and my expectations that we should all be able to breathe clean air and drink fresh, clean water. I think of Gaylord Nelson. I even think of Pete Seeger. And we need to have enough of this for our children. And I would like my grandchildren to have enough. And the great, 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 great grandchildren. It's that 7th generation thing. And the climate is in flux because of global warming. And I think of James Hansen's work. I think of his idealism as a scientist. His belief that logic would prevail, his certainty that his observations and facts and astonishingly precise models of how the globe is warming would be taken seriously. James Hansen, often known as the father of modern climate studies, began his climate modeling in the early 1970s. He spent the 1980s every day trying to convince Congress that this was a real thing we should be worried about. The 1980s. In 2004, Dr. James Hansen, director of NASA Goddard Institute for Space Studies and a professor at Columbia University at their Earth Institute, was censored by the Bush administration. This was the same year he was awarded the GISS Best Scientific Publication on Climate Change by his fellow peer scientists. He was told that same year by the Bush administration to stop communicating with the public and stop communicating with the other scientists. In 2006, Time magazine would designate him as one of the world's 100 most important and influential people. But in 2004, The President and the Vice President of the United States of America turned him away. They told him to be quiet. In 2008, Hansen was given the Rachel Carson Award. Hansen's integrity, ethic, dedication to good science is unquestioned by the scientific community, by the environmental community, by the energy community, by most of the public, and yet he was told to be quiet by the highest office in our land. What is wrong with this picture? In 2009, Dr. Hansen said, "In my more than 3 decades in government service, I have never witnessed such restrictions on the ability of scientists to communicate with the public." Bill McKibben, founder of 350.org, said of Dr. Hansen, "I think he thought, as did I, if we get this set of facts out in front of everybody, they're so powerful, overwhelming, that people will do what needs to be done." Of course, that was very naive of us. The current administration of Barack Obama is correcting this to some degree, but not fast enough for us scientists, and I hope not fast enough for everybody else. So what can I do to help? Vote! The massive body of work on global warming and climate change has solidified the point of irrefutable fact that the Earth is warming. We know that global warming began as a natural process, but we have accelerated it by burning coal and petroleum that fueled the Industrial Revolution and the progress of civilization from that day forward. The global consensus through the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change demonstrates scientific solidarity. Here in Wisconsin is the Wisconsin Initiative on Climate Change Impacts, the University of Wisconsin itself, and the excellent work of John Magnuson and his colleagues, which fortify our factual knowledge of what is happening to the planet. Vote! A Stanford University survey showed that for every day a person watches opinion-based, anti-science, and non-factual news, they disbelieve science and global warming and all these other environmental factors more and more, such that by the end of a month of watching such programming, they don't believe in global warming at all. Furthermore, scientists who are experts and publish in the field of climate change have a greater than 97% agreement that the climate change is real, it is a threat, and in part human-induced. So we know it's not the science that holds us paralyzed to progress towards science-based quality of life-saving solutions for our society. As George Lakoff said, if a strongly held frame doesn't fit the facts, then the facts will be ignored. Vote! I am really thirsty. Vote! There was ice here once, not too long ago, just 10, 12,000 years ago. It melted back, and it filled the bedrock aquifers till everyone's glass was full, brimming. As it melted back, it filled the Great Lakes to the top, brimming. Lakes, Michigan, Huron, Ontario, Erie, and Superior. 21% of the world's fresh water in those lakes. 54% of the liquid fresh water we can drink is in those lakes. The rest is frozen north and south. And Wisconsin is changing. Summers and winters are becoming warmer. Soon, one day, Wisconsin will have a climate more like that of Missouri or Oklahoma. Wisconsin will be wetter in the north, drier in the south. We'll see more prairies down there. Intense storms are becoming more common, and the sudden downpours rapidly translate into flash flooding. And don't forget about the long periodic droughts. We have already seen this. We are noticing longer growing seasons here, but water becomes problematic. The climate cannot recharge the aquifers to what they were because it was wetter in the past. And we are so thirsty. The rainfall and the snow melt cannot recharge the lake levels of the Great Lakes or of the 15,000 lakes here in Wisconsin if we drink them down. That means the underground water, that fossil water from a time of the ice ages, is not renewable. It could someday be gone forever. But whoa, I mean, things are being flushed down the toilet, sucked down the drain pipe, overflowing the dam, topping the riverbanks, leaking from the pipes. We're just washing out signs of civilization in some places. We're experiencing water pressure, sometimes the lack of it. There's turbulent flow, chaotic and foreboding, laminar flow, deceptively calm and peaceful. And still, waters run deep. Some days I feel like a fish out of water. The average Wisconsinite uses 56 gallons of water per day. But if you live in Madison, the average is 73 gallons of water per day. Do you water your lawn? Almost half of the water goes for laundry and toilets. We flush our toilets with drinking water. Let's put in a gray water system. People are eyeing the Great Lakes. They are very thirsty. There's a plan to drill high-volume groundwater wells in northwestern Illinois and northeastern Iowa and put large-diameter pipelines from those corners of those states to feed, to drink, to satisfy the thirst of 9.5 billion people in Chicago. Chicago? Really? It's so far away from here. We don't have to worry about that. Oddly enough, water connects us all. Chicago's cone of depression, 900 feet below normal that cannot be recharged, has connected with Milwaukee's, which is 450 feet below normal. It has connected with Green Bay's, which is 175 feet below normal, and it's headed for Madison, which is 50 feet below normal. We are connected with everything these big cities do. We are connected to the Great Lakes. And I have this dream of water remembered when I see the mummified fish or the dried vegetation on a dry lake bed. And I embrace the embodiment of the glorious energy through the roar and wetness of a Niagara waterfall. And I dream of the dark mystery of transient fluids in deep rivers within the aquifers below our very footsteps. We use science and technology to help us improve the quality of our lives. But it's gotten a little out of hand. How many people are texting or tweeting or Facebooking right now? We enjoy the fruits of the earth, the metals, the fuels, the rocks, the soils, the wood, the fiber, the food. But science is not a faith. It is not something we believe in. Science is a process of testing ideas, collecting data, developing theories, and finding facts. Science is something we either agree or disagree with, support or reject. Jesus Christ could walk on water. That's faith. I can only walk on water when it's frozen in the winter. That's science. And I ponder what could possibly be sustainable in my life, in my community's life. The words of Pete Seeger could never have rung truer today. As a responsible and sustainably aware steward of the land, what can I do? How can I conserve its resources? I want to help you discover your sense of place. Sustainability. What is that? Well, it certainly doesn't mean that the earth will stay the same. Sustainability in nature is a balance. A definition of sustainability conceived by the United Nations reads, meeting the needs of the present generation while improving the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This makes a lot of sense. Who could disagree with this? But this is a philosophical definition. It speaks of a want, a goal, a desire, an ethic. It is not a template. So I wrote my own definition of sustainability for myself. It goes like this. Sustainability is the application of quantifiable practices that are measurable in terms of specific metrics. That means I'm going to know what I'm doing. Confirming reductions in energy, resource use, aggressive improvements in the environment, enrichment of my community, and parity of the economy, while working towards a zero net total impact to the sphere in which I live, my community thrives, and where I work, and hopefully the country and the government that I am under. There's so much we can do. You are not alone. In fact, you are in a crowd. And we're all getting pretty thirsty. Vote. Quench your thirst. Vote. I think of social justice, the haves, the haves not, the great divide disallowing economic parity and fairness. The first Unitarian Society is invested in this. This is really cool. Practicing progressive social action and community involvement. I am concerned about the increasingly smothering double standards in our justice system. Matt Taibbi delved into this economic calamity of the past few decades. He said, social society only functions when people believe justice will work. He said, but what is justice? It is fairness. But we've fallen into this new era of inequality. So, in this new reality, poverty sometimes fosters crime, which is rewarded with incarceration. Meanwhile, wealth sometimes fosters crime, which we penalize via a monetary slap, and then freedom is the reward for that wrongdoer. For social justice is not just the realm of criminal and human rights law. It is not only including the economic, but it reaches out and grabs all of what we are. We are people, and it is for people we seek economic justice, community justice, environmental justice. I would posit that what we're really seeking is sustainability justice. The whole works. So I think of sustainability. And what can I do as one person? Well, I can vote. And start at home. Again, remember the words of Pete Seeger. If you can't start at home and in your community, we don't need to go halfway around the world to begin solving a problem that is actually in our own house. Think of your home as a tree, your community as a forest. Buildings should mimic trees, mimic nature. Balance, justice, and fairness within the realm of having enough, but not too much, of having treasures, but within balance. And I think of my yard not as a lawn, but as a garden for food. I think of my home as a tree. A tree provides shelter, provides food, cleanses the air we breathe, turns sunlight into energy, remediates and recycles waste, symbiotically enriches the soil, gains strength from the wind, manages stormwater and groundwater, moderates temperature swings, and is beautiful and inviting, creates a refuge for creativity, educates us about nature's harmony and symmetry, and about nature's economy. It is home to many generations and integrates us beneficially into the forest community. We learn from this. Look at the forest through the trees. Model our buildings much like a lot of this building was done through nature's botanical template. design the densities, the throughways, the cooperative symbiosis of the forest patterns and principles for our communities. I see our communities not separate from, but part of nature, sustainable planning to improve people's qualities of life. It will also guide our policy making by better understanding the management of the edges between both the natural, rural, urban built spaces, agriculture and wilderness, between green fields and brown fields, between the historic and the new, and the shell and the core, the walking and the riding. As I stand in this building, and I was in the other building earlier, I am heartened to see the social justice and water ministries here, the people here advocating peace instead of incarceration. I am given optimism as I meet the people here that know about permaculture and horticulture as part of the stewardship programs. All of these efforts strengthen community, impact economy, and can help the environment. And the good news of embracing a historic building, this Frank Lloyd Wright structure, the LEED Gold certification, all towards responsible, sustainable architecture. Thank you for doing this. It's really, really important. Thank you. On the wings of these efforts, what more can I do? I can take these examples home, and I can take these examples to work. How many of us recycle at home but not at work? Or work in a place that doesn't do anything sustainability while we struggle to do it when we come here? Let's spread that out a little bit. I can eat organically grown food. I can grow some of my own food. I can buy local products and employ local labor. I can recycle, reuse, conserve, repurpose. Go for a week. Try this. Go for a week without generating any trash that can't be recycled. And then at the end of that week, weigh it. I hope it's like 2 grams. Try it. Get your kids to try it. When I made my kids do this, they went, "Dad, not another sustainability thing." They kind of brainwashed in my family. But then they got into it, and it was a competition between my know-it-all daughter and my pragmatic son. What can be recycled? They learned about stuff that they could recycle that they never had ever considered before. So every time now, 15 years after that little home experiment, every time they are about to throw something away, they look at it, recycle it, or think, what can I make something out of this? Who can I call in my community that might be able to use this? And I can engage my community through volunteering or even running for an elected office. Having done that, it's kind of like joining the Army. Interesting experience, don't know if I want to do it again. And do this with your children. Do this with the neighbor next door. And my wife and I, we have a neighbor that doesn't recycle. So every time they take the garbage out, there's like 5 garbage cans stuffed full of stuff. And we take out a small bag about every 2 to 3 weeks because we recycle, we compost, and it takes practice. It takes practice, but you can do it. This is something you can do at home, and it doesn't cost anything. So one day I'm out there taking our little bucket of stuff out there, and he says, he was hauling, he had, one of these trucks hauling the stuff out there, and he says, "Are you guys never home?" I said, no, we're home all the time. I work out of the house, in fact. That's where my office is. And he says, well, where's your garbage? What are you doing? I said, well, we're recycling, we're reusing, we're composting. And he says, I can't do that. And I said, well, let's try something. You got a minute? And he went, well, what are you going to do? He says, well, let's take these 3 bags of garbage, and we're going to get our hands dirty. And we went through some of his garbage. Some of it was pretty bad. But we just simply took all the recyclables out. That you all do. That's not a big deal. But then in another garbage can, I started simply dumping bags of stuff you could compost. Coffee grounds. Anything organic. And we got his garbage can down to a half a garbage can from 4. Now, it took 20 minutes, and we were really smelly and filthy by then. But he said, I had no idea. I did that with a guy I didn't know that lived right next door to me. He is now working on it, and we are working together to create a composting area in our little cluster of homes. So that's how you can work with your neighbor. You can do this. And as you may know, there's some kind of important election happening pretty soon here. Vote! Vote! Vote like your planet depends on it, because it does depend on it.